everybody, my name is Mr. Francy and welcome back to Mr. Francy Reads. It has been a while since I've done a book tag and that is what we are going to do today. Today I'm going to be doing the Unpopular Opinions book tag. So let's get to it in 3, 2, 1, go! Thank you so very much to everyone who has requested I do another book tag. I know I haven't done one in a while and I do apologize for that. I had some other educational videos that I wanted to do, but I'm excited to get into this one. But let's begin! Prompt number 1. A popular book or series that you don't like. Before I go any further, there's a lot of noise going on out there. I don't have any other time to get this video done. I'm going to be away for a couple of days. So I'm sorry. I hope you can't hear it. We're just going to get through this one and I'm going to try and compensate by talking louder so that you can still hear me. Okay, I am going to start off with one that is incredibly popular and I am not a fan of it. And that series would happen to be The Inheritance Cycle. I am not a fan. Okay, so I picked up book number 1, Eragon, I think in 2020, after a lot of my friends had told me just how amazing this series is. Oh my gosh, Mr. Francy, it's so good. And when I asked them why, generally the feedback I received was because dragons! Dragons! I mean, right? That's all I need to say. Dragons! Now, I'm a lover of fantasy, but dragons haven't ever really been much of anything that I've gravitated towards. But I thought, okay, a lot of people love it. I'll give it a go. I asked the all-important question, does it contain magic? I was told yes. I then backed that question up with, does it contain more magic than Lord of the Rings? And I was told, yes, it does. Okay, wonderful. I'm on board. I'll give it a go. I read Eragon and it was fine. Yeah, it was fine. Look, I give a lot of credit to Christopher Paolini. He wrote this series when he was a teenager, I believe. And so that does say quite a lot. It is incredibly well done. And so much credit to Christopher Paolini. It is incredibly well done for a teenager. Really incredibly well done. I really loved the relationship between our protagonist and and their dragon, and the way that they communicated was very different, very unique, very special. I very much appreciated it. There is a magic system, which I appreciate that there is one. Did I like it? Not necessarily. Everything else just did not work for me. The next one is a very interesting one, and that is the Percy Jackson series by Rick Riordan. Okay. In March of 2020, I was working at a store that, among other things, sold books. I came across a book that I was putting away on a shelf, but the moment I saw its cover, I decided to purchase it because it looked so incredibly intriguing that I wanted it for myself. So I purchased it, took it home, and started reading it, and really enjoyed it. The book I'm referring to is book 1 in the Heroes of Olympus series, The Lost Hero. I loved this book. The interesting thing about this book is that on the cover it does say, Return to the World of Percy Jackson. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, I missed that. I did not see those words, just like I didn't see a certain skull on a certain cozy mystery book that we won't get into today until it was pointed out to me. But I loved Heroes of Olympus, The Lost Heroes so much. After I finished reading the book, I then subsequently found out that it was the first book in a spin-off series to the Percy Jackson series. I am a series purist. I like reading series in book order, and if I start with a spin-off series, I like to go back to the original series and read that first. So the next Rick Riordan book I picked up was Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief, which was book number 1 in the Percy Jackson series. I think having read The Lost Hero first, I do believe The Lost Hero ruined The Lightning Thief for me. Now, I'm sorry, I know there's a massive Percy Jackson fanhood out there. I know that there is. And I think that's wonderful that as readers we can love all different things. But for me, The Lightning Thief just did not work, especially after reading The Lost Hero. I found it to be too simplistic. I did appreciate that there was dyslexia representation in the first book. I really, really enjoyed that. But otherwise, I found it to be way too simple. I think maybe had I gone into The Lightning Thief first and Heroes of Olympus second, The Lost Hero second, maybe I would have seen things differently, but doing it the other way around, it just didn't work for me. Fast forward a couple of months later, we're going through the pandemic here in Melbourne, Australia. We are in a very fast and hard lockdown, and my library was giving an offer to send out one book per fortnight if you just send them an email with a list of genres that you like. I did that, and I ultimately received a box of 20 books, which I did not expect. But hey, it worked out in the end because I ended up being able to do a library book haul with that video. It's still on my channel if you would like to go and check that out. Among those books, I kid you not, was book number 2 in the Percy Jackson series, Percy Jackson and the Sea of Monsters. Book number 1 was nowhere to be seen. There was no way my library would have known I'd read book 1 because I had never told them. I had no reason to tell them. But book 2 was there after I had decided I'm not going to read the Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief series. I'm just going to continue on with the Heroes of Olympus series. Well, blow me down with a feather, there was book number 2, and I decided that that was the angel's way of telling me, you need to keep reading. So, I did. I picked up book number 2, I read it cover to cover, and the only thing that I liked about book number 2 was that there was a new character that came in who is hardly there, but when they were there, I enjoyed it, but I didn't like anything else about it at all. This was enough for me to say that I don't plan on reading this book series again. But it's funny though, because I love the spin-off so much. So I will continue with the Heroes of Olympus series, but I'm sorry, lovers and, those who are incredible lovers of the Percy Jackson series, it's just not the series for me. Prompt number 2. A book or series that many people don't like, but you love. Oh my dears, my answer for this is definitely going to be the Twilight Saga. I know. A lot of you are looking at me right now like, really, Mr. Francy, how could you love that drivel? I love the Twilight Saga series so much. I find it to be such a fun series. Now, I get it. There are a lot of complaints that people make about Stephenie Meyer as an author, certain writing style choices that she makes. That's fine. You can have your opinion. I'm fine with that. And Stephenie Meyer makes a very big decision when it comes to something to do with vampire lore, when it comes to her vampires in her book series, compared to what other what common vampire lore is. To me, I'm not going to say what it is because it's a spoiler, but to me, Stephenie Meyer's vampire lore differences don't affect me in any way, shape, or form. In fact, if anything, I appreciate Stephenie Meyer's vampire lore because it allows the vampires to do certain things that other vampires aren't allowed to do, so I appreciate that. But yeah, I have no problem with the series at all. I definitely can say I don't read them with a critical mind. I went into book 1 this year with a critical mind, and that critical mind went right out the window after chapter 1 or chapter 2 at the latest, because I just get swept up with this book, and I feel like I'm literally there. Like, I have literally fallen through the book, each book I'm reading in this series so far, and I'm walking alongside our main characters. I'm right there in the world with them. My next unpopular series that not everyone else loves will be the one that's right up there. It is the Selection series by Kiera Cass. Now, I think the reason why this is an unpopular series, is because of the way that it is marketed. The Selection series is a YA dystopian series, and it is marketed as The Bachelor set in a royal palace. This is true. However, it's a dystopian. If it literally only was The Bachelor set in a royal palace, it would be called a romance, or a fantasy romance, or something like that. But it's a dystopian for a reason. We are in a dystopian world where things are absolutely horrible. There is an incredibly demeaning class/caste system placed upon the citizens of Ilya, which is where this series is set. Because of this, a number of wars take place, and there are a number of massive consequences that occur throughout the series that have nothing to do with the selection process itself. So if you are someone who loves dystopians, who loves class systems, who loves wars or political discussions in books, then I highly recommend the Selection series. Do not be fooled by the beautiful girl in the ball gown on the cover. Prompt number 3. A love triangle where the main character ended up with the person you didn't want them to end up with. Oh my gosh, way too easy. 2 words, Harry Potter. I have issues. I have so many issues with the way that it was resolved when it came to the characters not ending up with who I wanted them to end up with. Yeah. It really didn't work for me. The series as a whole definitely works for me. Very quick disclaimer here, because I'm sure there are a lot of you who are wondering why I'm even bringing this series up. So, please know I do not advocate anything at all that J.K. Rowling has done. I don't. For me, here on my channel, the way I do it is because of how much I love the series, I separate the author from the series itself. I'm focusing on the series, not the author. Now that that's out the way, let's continue with my discussion. I love the Harry Potter series so very much, and I love our protagonists, because I believe that there are 3 main characters in the book: Harry Potter, Hermione Granger, Ron Weasley. Well, I may not love all of them, but I love 2 of them. Anyway, moving on. Right at the end of the series, I'm not going to spoil this. Right at the end of the series, there are 2 relationships that are thrust into the spotlight. Neither of them make sense to me. Now, I have been having a discussion with my dear friend Johara from the Witchy Reader. Go check her out. She has a wonderful channel. And Johara has explained to me in detail why both of these relationships do make sense. I will grant that they make sense, but it doesn't mean that I need to like them, because I don't. I don't like them at all. I would have gone a completely different direction. Really? Really? In the words of Tatiana from the US edition of RuPaul's Drag Race, there are choices. That was a choice. Prompt number 4, a popular genre that you hardly reach for. Okay, so I'm going to give you 2 romance and historical fiction. I hardly reach for romance books. Now, I have reached for more LGBTIQ plus romances in the past, because LGBTIQ plus, the genre, and representing that on my channel is very important to me. But as far as romance as a generalization, whether it is straight romance or LGBTIQ plus romance, they seem to follow a template that we'll talk about a little later on. But generally speaking, I don't really like straight romances. And that has nothing to do with gender, sexuality, whatever it is. I just find it hard to find straight romances that I actually enjoy reading. So I don't reach for them that often. Historical fiction has a ton of subgenres as well, but it really takes a lot for me to find a historical fiction that I do love, so I generally tend to not read them. Prompt number 5, a popular or beloved character that you don't like. Okay, everyone, are we ready to play the game where Mr. Francy loses a ton of subscribers? Here we go! Talking about an unpopular opinions book tag, my answer to this question is, oh my goodness, Lord of the Rings fans, cover your ears. My answer is Gandalf the Wizard. Oh my goodness, I have so many issues with Gandalf the Wizard in the Lord of the Rings book series. There are so many things I could say that would spoil, so I'm going to keep it very brief. We have a series where we have a character that is a wizard. We do not know a lot about this wizard. We do not know a lot about their magical abilities. Along the way, this wizard and a crew that they have assembled are going off to achieve a certain task, and while they're doing this, they get into trouble here and there. Gandalf is, I remind you, a wizard. And one more time for those in the back, Gandalf is a wizard. The members of the crew get into trouble a lot of the time, and in case you didn't hear me, Gandalf is a wizard. Gandalf's response is, oh dear, it looks like we're in a spot of bother. What are we going to do? Are you kidding me? You are a wizard. Now, I understand that it is a soft magic system. What I mean by this, in case you don't know, is that we don't know the rules, the limitations that are placed upon Gandalf's magic. We don't know what he can do. We don't know what he can't do. But at the very least, we know that he can attempt to battle others with his magic. If he can do this, and his friends are being placed in danger, why isn't he doing something to try and stop this danger from occurring, or to make the danger easier to get out of? To do something, as opposed to say being an all-powerful wizard and saying, oh dear, we do seem to be in a spot of bother. I don't know what should we do? It's quite the conundrum, really. I mean, really, you're a wizard. Do something. Prompt number 6. An author that you can't seem to get into. I'm going to give you 2 examples here. The first one is Frederick Bachman. Okay, I tried. One more time for those in the back. I tried to get into Frederick Bachman because I get it. Analytically, critically speaking, Frederick Bachman is an amazing writer. But do I go into books for the sake of the writing style? No. In fact, a lot of the time, writing styles can be really tough for me. So when we talk about the second author, you'll understand why. But with Frederick Bachman, I read Beartown. I think it was last year or the year before, one of the two, because the premise I found to be intriguing for a hard-hitting contemporary. And so the premise of Beartown is that we're in a small town where everyone is obsessed with hockey and therefore does everything they can for their hockey team, of the town's hockey team. One day, a member of the hockey team sexually assaults, because we can't use the R word for whatever reason on BookTube, but the R word that you know I'm trying to say, sexually assaults a girl, and the girl comes out and tells everyone what happened, and everyone reacts in different ways. So I thought this would be an interesting topic to explore, and I wanted to see how Frederick Bachman would go about doing this. Frederick Bachman is known for writing extremely hard-hitting contemporaries, so I was aware that it was going to be hard-hitting going in. The book did not work for me. The reason why the book did not work for me is because 3/4 of the book, the first 3/4, are a slog to get through. Nothing happens. Well, nothing happens in my opinion. I am a fast-paced, plot-driven reader. Because of that, I say nothing happened. If you're a slow-paced, character-driven reader, you probably loved the first 3/4. I didn't. So it was a slog to get through. To the point that when I finally got to that point where we're dealing with this subject matter, I was kind of over it, and it did fall rather flat for me. But I gave Frederick Bachman another go, and I read The Deal of a Lifetime. I read this in December because there is a Christmas tree on the cover. I mean, you can't look at the cover and say that it's not a Christmas tree. It is a Christmas tree. It has nothing to do with Christmas. And it really, really let me down. That's not the reason why I don't like Frederick Bachman, but at the same time, I do feel that artists of book covers are responsible for illustrating a book cover that represents what the book is, rather than putting something up on a book that has nothing to do with it. Imagine a horror that is all about stabby, blood and guts and all those types of things, and the cover is a pink cover with a fluffy dog being hugged by a girl who's holding it. It has nothing to do with the book. Why did they have a Christmas tree on a cover that has nothing to do with Christmas? Or trees. Nothing to do with Christmas, nothing to do with trees. It doesn't make sense. I just didn't like the book overall. It just didn't work for me. But I gave Bachman one more go. Yes, for those in the back, I gave him one more go. I started listening on audiobook to A Man Called Ove. One night I couldn't sleep, so I decided I would give it a go. And I think I got through the first 2 chapters and just went, this book is not working for me. There's a point to Ove, to A Man Called Ove, and I get that, and I get that Bachman's sticking to that, but Ove is so completely grumpy and so completely negative that it did not work for me. I'm not someone who likes to read overly negative stuff, and it just was overly negative for me. I gave him a go. I'm done. The next author I'm talking to about is Erin Morgenstern. Okay, so a couple of years ago, I read this book, which is The Starless Sea. I love the cover. I am a sucker for a really beautiful cover, but I started learning things after giving this book a go. So I started reading it. I didn't like it. It was incredibly slow. It was incredibly character focused. I think I got about halfway through the book before my mind started wandering, thinking about, how am I going to review this, or how am I going to talk about it in my monthly wrap? What is the premise? And I was stumped. I was literally sitting there with the book in my hand going, I don't even know what I would say the premise is. Because so far, there has literally been a whole lot of nothing that's going on. And I mean a whole lot of nothing. So then I decided late last year that Casey from Books and Bops and I were going to read Erin Morgenstern's The Night Circus as the first book that I read for 2022. I love the cover. It reminded, again, Erin Morgenstern has an amazing artist, and if I publish a book, I want her artist. But the cover reminded me of Caraval by Stephanie Garber, a book that I loved so much. So I couldn't wait to get into this book. I couldn't stand this book for many reasons, and the first being I don't like second-person writing style. So second-person writing style refers to the word you, and also, the word you, generally speaking, breaks the fourth wall, where the author or the main character or whatever it is referring to you, the reader. I don't like that. It takes me out of the book. It does not work for me. It works for some, but not for me. This book literally opens up. The first word is you. And I think, don't quote me, but it's something along the lines of, you are standing in a line. You are now moving forward in the line. You are now looking at a clock. You are now doing this. And it was tripping me out. Like, really? And I couldn't help but get a bit snarky the more I'm reading it. You are standing in a line. No, I'm not. You are moving forward in said line. No, I haven't moved. You are looking at a clock. No, I'm not. I'm looking at a book. No. I've given Erin Morgenstern enough of a chance. I will not be reading her books anymore. Prompt number 7. A popular book trope you're tired of seeing. Let's go back to romance. Because here's something we need to discuss. I could do a whole video on this. But we'll just take this prompt to discuss it, shall we? At least for the moment. If you want an extended video on this, let me know in the comments below. I'll see what I can do. Romance books, regardless of if they are straight romance or LGBTIQ plus romance, all seem to follow the same template. So I'm going to give you the template. This template should not be a spoiler because I'm not specifically spoiling anything about the book. I'm giving you a general overview of each and every single romance that I've ever picked up, and I've picked up many. So here we go. Quarter 1. Let's just say it's a singular perspective, but they can be dual perspective. We'll just say it's singular perspective. Quarter 1. We are getting to know the character that we are following. This character is either single or they're with someone. If they are single, they've recently broken up from someone. If they're with someone, they're about to break up with them. Quarter number 2. This now newly single main character has found someone that they find to be quite attractive, quite hot, quite dishy, depending upon which author and what country they're from and how they describe it. So then in quarter number 3, they get together. This person that we're following and the person they love, they end up in a relationship. By the end of quarter 3, this happens, and this is my answer to that prompt. They break up. And that's what annoys me. They break up. Now, why do they break up? It doesn't make sense. We're following a character who we fall for, we become very invested in. They find someone that's perfect for them. They get together and everything is wonderful and it's going so well. And then they break up. Why? Why? I'll tell you why. To create drama. To create drama, which creates another dynamic to a romance book. It does not work for me. It does not work for me. I don't care if it's less believable that two strangers get into a relationship that is perfect and they have no problems. I would much rather read that than read a couple that is perfect together that breaks up purely because it has to add a dynamic to a book. It does not work for me, and it happens all the time, and I know I'm getting angry, but I'm getting angry because I see it all the time. It happens so much that I am ready for it. The moment they get into a relationship, whoever it is in whatever book in a romance, I just think to myself, okay, how are you guys going to break up? Get ready, Mr. Francy, they're going to break up, we need to be prepared for this, and it always happens without fail. And then the fourth quarter of the template is the whoever it is that's at fault needs to find a way to fix whatever it is they've done wrong in order for them to get back together. Then they do and live happily ever after. And it's the same template over and over and over again. And I, quite frankly, am getting sick of it. I want to give you an example. I'm not going to say what book so that I don't spoil it for you. This is an LGBTIQ plus romance that I read. And what happens is we have these two people, they're in a relationship and they go to bed one night. To go to sleep, okay? To go to sleep. They go to bed to go to sleep. And the last things that they say to each other after a wonderful day they've had is, good night, I love you too. It is a beautiful ending. The next morning, our main character wakes up to find the other person that they're in a relationship with is up, dressed, and says to them, I'm so sorry, this is not going to work. And in my mind, I'm going, wait, what? Everything was fine. It doesn't make sense. And thank goodness the protagonist said the same thing I did. They're going, wait, what? We went to bed and we were good. What happened? Well, we were asleep. Like, did you have a bad dream? Like, seriously? What happened? And it did not make sense to me at all. And despite the fact that the second person is trying to explain why it's not going to work, it didn't work for me. The reasoning, none of it worked. It seemed forced. Like, okay, I have to split them up now, so let's just do it for the sake of the drama. Let's find something to make it work. It doesn't work for me. If you've read a romance where two people get together and they are wonderful together and they don't break up at all in the book, please let me know. I understand if you want to have drama in your romance to add another element. Let me give you a recommendation. All future romance authors who are about to break up their couples, stop, wait, don't do it, wait. Instead, have a drama that occurs that requires both people in that relationship to work together in order to get through the drama. Have them working together to get through it, not splitting up to create it, because that would only make them stronger as a couple. All right, my rant is over. Prompt number 8, a popular book or series you have no interest in reading. Okay, I'm going to give you 2. Song of Ice and Fire is number 1. I have seen one incredibly random, out-of-the-blue episode of A Game of Thrones. I didn't like it. I'm not going to allow that to sway me on my thoughts or feelings about what the series would be about because it wouldn't be fair. It was a completely random episode. I had no idea what was going on, but it just didn't work for me, what I was seeing. As far as the book series is concerned, I've heard a lot of different things that I know wouldn't work for me, whether they worked for the person who was talking about the book or not. One of them being that we follow a huge amount of characters. That's not going to work for me. I read a cozy mystery last month in February where the reveal happened, and instead of going, yay, or, my reaction actually was, wait, who? I don't remember this person because there were too many. Apparently, the Song of Ice and Fire series has so many characters. I just don't think I would be able to keep them straight. So that's not going to work for me. Also, I am well aware, because there's been so much commentary made about it, that George R.R. Martin has a certain obsession. And I'm going to let that go. I'm not even going to say what the obsession is. If you know the series, whether it's the TV series or the book series, you know what that obsession is. I don't like reading about that stuff, so that's not going to work for me either. I did end up purchasing from a thrift shop, mind you, the first book in the series, A Game of Thrones, and I had it on my bookshelf for quite a while, but just never wanted to get to it, so I ended up unhauling it. It's just not going to be the series for me. And the other one's going to be the Farseer trilogy, otherwise known as the Robin Hobb series. The whole Assassin's Apprentice is book 1, that series. Okay, this series commits a personal Mr. Francy crime. And that is the incredibly slow beginning where you have to get through a slog in order to get somewhere. It just doesn't appeal to me. Every single person that I've seen review the first book in the series always says the same thing. It is incredibly slow paced. It has an amazing ending, but you have to get through the slog to get there. It doesn't appeal to me. So I'd much rather read 10 other books that I'm going to love from cover to cover than read a book where I'm going to, because it's a fantasy, potentially have to read a slog of 300 pages to get to something good. That's not going to work for me. And the final prompt number 9, is the saying goes that the book is always better than the movie, but what movie or TV show adaptation is better than the book? Okay, I have 2 answers for this one. I'm going to try and keep it very brief because this has been a very long video. Okay, my first answer is going to be The Princess Diaries. Originally as a book series, this series was written by Meg Cabot. This series as a book series is completely different to the Disney film adaptation. So I'm going to quickly talk about one character in both series that is called Clarice. Now, the premise of the book and film series is that it revolves around a high school girl who is very much an introvert, wants to be in the shadows, doesn't want to be seen, who one day finds out that she is a princess and she needs to be prepared to take the throne. So she needs to go through princess lessons and things like that. So in the book series, her father tells her this early on. It's not a spoiler because it happens early on. So it's the whole premise and setup of the series, so it's not a spoiler. Her father, who is the king, tells her this. She lives in America. He lives in an area called Genovia, which is a made-up world by Meg Cabot. And so he comes down to America to tell her this is the case. In the film series, her father is not alive. We worked that out basically from the beginning of the film. And so her grandmother, her father's mother, has assumed the role of the throne. She is queen. She is Queen Clarice. I need to tell you this because Clarice is different in both books for the fact that in the series, the father's alive, and in the book series, father's alive. In the film series, the father is dead. Because the father is dead in the film series, the grandmother is Queen Clarice. Because the father's alive in the book series, he is the king. So Clarice is not the queen. So she's referred to as grand-mère, and which is grandma. So in the film series, they hired the best actress they could hire for the role of a queen, which is my personal queen, Dame Julie Andrews. And she does an amazing job of being, just like with Mary Poppins, firm but kind. She does this role really well. There are times where she might get a little bit upset or impatient with Mia as she's learning her princess lessons, but every time that she doesn't go too far, and there's always a reason as to why she does. One example is that there is a princess lesson in Princess Diaries 2 where Queen Clarice is trying to teach Princess Mia the art of the fan and waving the fan and using the fan to communicate. Queen Clarice says to her, now we better get on with it because I only have 5 minutes to communicate this to you. So she's being a little bit blunt, but she is because she doesn't have a lot of time to get through the exercise. It makes sense. In the book series, Grand-mère Clarice is a word that I can't say on booktube. She's a bee. She is a rude, mean, pointlessly rude and mean character. Now, she is described as someone who has tattooed mascara lines under her eyelids, so she doesn't have to put eyeliner. So she doesn't have to put eyeliner on anymore. And she's a chain smoker, and any time that she can put Mia down, she does, and there's not always a good reason to do so. In this case, very easily, for me, the film series wins. I've seen the first 2 films. If a third one comes out, I am there. I've read the first 2 books. I'm not going to read any more. The second one I wanted to talk to you about is The Magicians. The Magicians was a book series that first came out by Lev Grossman. I did not know that this was a book or book series, either way, but I knew that it was a TV series. A friend of mine got me onto the series, and I absolutely loved it. I watched every single episode. It was amazing, and if you've seen the entire series, can we just talk about that ending? It was left so open-ended that they can come back at any moment and just keep going with the show, and gosh, I hope they do at some point. I will hold out hope that at some point in 20 years or 30 years, when they're grandmas and grandpas, that they're going to come back and with their little walking frame, oh yes, my dear, we're still here. I love that series so much. So when I found out originally it was a book series, I decided to read the book because I love the series, the TV series, so much that I'm gonna love the book too, right? Wrong. I did not like the book at all. It just did not work for me. First of all, even though the book came first, one great advantage for adapting a book to a TV series is that you can take what works, leave behind what doesn't, and add other things to replace what doesn't work that will work. And one thing that they did was they took a character out of the book series and replace them with a different character, who is my favourite character in the TV series, who, if you've seen the series, her name is Margot. Margot is not in the book, so that let me down. I was going chapter by chapter, going through chapter, going, where's Margot? Seriously, where the heck is Margot? I can't find Margot. But it's fine. The premise of this series as a whole is that we're following a man by the name of Quentin who is reading a series that I don't remember what it's called, but the series is very similar to the Chronicles of Narnia, where instead of the other world being called Narnia, the other world is called Fillory. He loves Fillory. He feels that there is more to Fillory than it just being an idea that an author had and wrote down, and that it may very well exist. One day he's sitting outside on these stone steps outside of a university when a professor comes out to talk to him, just so happens to actually be the dean, who says to him, it's time for your test. And Quentin says, what the heck are you talking about? I'm just sitting here waiting for someone. And the dean says to him, well, no, I don't believe that. You've always believed that magic is actually real. Now it's time for you to prove it. We run a magic school here for magicians. So Quentin takes the test. This is not a spoiler. He passes. He gets into the school. And this school is a college/university. It's not a high school. It's an adult book, an adult TV series. And it was done so incredibly well, the TV series, but the book was not. Okay, that's where I'm going to leave it because this video has gone on for far too long. Letting you guys go with peace, blessings, and so much love. What answers would you have given to these questions? Let me know. I post videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I'll see you again soon. Mwah! Thank you so much for watching. Be kind and love one another. And of course, happy reading!